Hi, welcome to my channel. Now we uncover the untold story of the Great Depression, the global economic collapse that changed the modern world. Introduction: the day the markets died. On October 29, 1929, the world stopped believing in prosperity. That day, known forever as Black Tuesday, the New York Stock Exchange crashed, wiping out billions of dollars in a matter of hours. But this was not just a financial disaster. It was the beginning of a decade-long global nightmare, the Great Depression. Factories closed, families lost homes, banks vanished overnight, entire nations fell into despair. And yet, out of that collapse came modern economic systems and social protections that shape our world today. The Roaring Twenties, the calm before the storm. To understand the Great Depression, we must first look at the 1920s, a decade of dazzling optimism. After the horrors of World War I, America entered a period of economic boom. The stock market soared as people invested heavily, believing prices would rise forever. Cars, radios, and electric appliances filled homes. Jazz music played in every city. The United States became the world's leading industrial power. But underneath this golden surface, cracks were forming. Wages did not keep up with rising prices. Farmers were drowning in debt. Banks lent money recklessly to investors. And millions of Americans were buying stocks on credit, borrowing money to gamble in the market. It was a fragile dream built on borrowed dollars. The crash of 1929, when confidence collapsed. On October 24, 1929, Black Thursday, panic hit Wall Street. Prices began to fall, and investors tried to sell before losing everything. Banks and brokers flooded the market with shares. Then came Black Tuesday, October 29th, when 16 million shares were traded in one day, a record. Prices collapsed. Fortunes disappeared. People who had been millionaires in the morning were bankrupt by nightfall. In just a few weeks, the stock market lost $30 billion, more than the total cost of World War I. The crash didn't just destroy investors, it destroyed faith in the entire economy. The domino effect: when the world went dark. When the market crashed, banks lost their money too. At that time, there was no deposit insurance. So when banks failed, people's life savings were gone forever. By 1933, over 9,000 banks in the U.S. had collapsed. Factories closed because no one could buy goods. Farmers couldn't sell crops because prices fell below cost. Unemployment skyrocketed to 25%. 1 in every 4 Americans had no job. Homeless families built makeshift shelters called Hoovervilles, mocking President Herbert Hoover, who failed to solve the crisis. Soup kitchens lined city streets. Dust storms destroyed farmlands across the Midwest, creating the Dust Bowl, one of the worst environmental disasters in U.S. history. The Great Depression goes global. The Depression didn't stop at America's borders. Because the U.S. was the world's largest creditor, the collapse of its economy triggered a worldwide financial chain reaction. Countries like Germany, already burdened by World War I reparations, faced total collapse. Unemployment soared across Europe. In Britain, factories shut down. In Japan, trade collapsed. Global production fell by nearly 40%. and international trade dropped by 2/3. The world economy, once interconnected by optimism, was now trapped in a cycle of poverty and protectionism, desperation and the rise of extremism. Economic despair often breeds political chaos, and the 1930s were proof of that. In Germany, hyperinflation and mass unemployment created anger and hopelessness. Out of that chaos rose Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, promising to restore pride and jobs. In Italy, Mussolini's fascism gained momentum. In Japan, military leaders took power and pursued expansion in Asia. Thus, the Great Depression didn't just destroy economies, it paved the way to World War II. In contrast, in the United States, democracy survived, but it had to change drastically. The New Deal, Roosevelt's revolution. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, became U.S. president and introduced the New Deal, a massive series of programs designed to rescue the economy. It was built on three principles: 1. Relief for the unemployed. 2. Recovery of the economy. 3. Reform of the financial system. The government created jobs through public works, building bridges, roads, schools, and dams. Agencies like the Works Progress Administration, WPA, and Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, gave millions employment. The Social Security Act, 1935, introduced old age pensions and unemployment insurance. Banks were stabilized with deposit insurance. The stock exchange was brought under strict regulation. For the first time, the government took responsibility for citizens' welfare, a radical idea that still shapes economies today. Cultural impact, the Depression in everyday life. The Great Depression changed not just economies, but also people's hearts. It reshaped how Americans saw themselves, their government, and their dreams. Families learned to survive with less. They grew their own food, sewed their clothes, and supported one another. Hollywood tried to offer escape. Musicals, comedies, and films like Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz gave audiences hope. Writers such as John Steinbeck, in his novel The Grapes of Wrath, captured the pain of ordinary people displaced by poverty and the Dust Bowl. Artists of the New Deal art projects painted murals celebrating workers and resilience. The Depression taught the world humility and endurance, values that still echo through history. The end of the Great Depression. By the late 1930s, the global economy began to recover. Slowly. However, it was not until World War II that full recovery came. The war effort created massive demand for weapons, vehicles, and labor, ending unemployment overnight. Ironically, the same industrial power that had collapsed in the Depression was reborn to fight tyranny. After the war, global leaders wanted to ensure such a catastrophe could never happen again. They created institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to stabilize global finance, both of which still exist today. Legacy. Lessons from the greatest economic collapse. The Great Depression forever changed how the world understood economics. It taught that unregulated markets could fail and that governments must act in times of crisis. It gave rise to modern economic safety nets, central banking policies, and international cooperation. Most importantly, it revealed something timeless about humanity. Even in the darkest moments, people can adapt, rebuild, and rise again. Conclusion. From ruin to renewal, the Great Depression was not just a story of loss. It was a story of transformation. It reshaped the relationship between government and citizen, between money and morality. It created both dictatorships and democracies, despair and hope, and it left behind one powerful truth, that no economy, no empire is too strong to fall when greed replaces wisdom. Yet, the human spirit, time and again, finds a way to rise from the ashes. Finally, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share this World History Facts Hub channel.